All right, let's start that again. Ugh, episode 300. So it's going to be a Q&A session, guys. So you can ask away, ask anything that you want, put them in the comments, and I'll try and get to them as we go. I've got about 15 or so questions that I've got to get through first after I get through a couple of things, but I'm just going to make sure everything is going well before we really get into the crux of it. So yeah, how have you guys been? What have you been up to? Alright, it's looking good on Facebook. What do we got here? I'll close down some of these windows, make sure the internet's working alright. So, man, what have I achieved? What have I achieved? Let's go over a bit about Aussie English, why I started it, where we are now, what I want to do in the future. So I started this, guys, back in 2015. It was the end of 2015, and I was learning French at the time and listening to some really cool podcasts, and so I decided to start one because I had met a lot of people who were French speakers learning English, not necessarily Australian English, but just English more generally, and they would always ask me, why did you want to start a podcast? Or, sorry, not why did you want to start a podcast? What do you use in order to learn English? And I said, I use a podcast. And, you know, they would ask me, why would you want to listen to a podcast? What's a podcast? Why would you even do that? And then I taught them about Français Authentique, the podcast that I listened to, and how good it was. I was always getting exercises, listening to natural speech. So it was awesome. And they said, effectively, are there equivalents for us to use in Australian English or in British English? And I had a look and couldn't find any that were sort of run the same way, where people used common English, spoke to you like normal human beings, where they weren't reading off a script that had been written down, all of that sort of jazz, and just, yeah, allow them to learn English a bit better. So I started Aussie English in 2015. Since then, we've had 700,000 downloads. 700,000 downloads. We're getting close to 1 million, and I want to try and get to 1 million by the end of this year. So let's get it going, guys. I reckon with all of your help, with everyone who's listening, with everyone who's in this live class, if we keep sharing this, liking these videos, and keep me motivated to keep pumping out this content, we can definitely get to 1 million views or 1 million listens, 1 million downloads by the end of the year. More recently, I started a YouTube channel, and so I've been playing with different things on there. That's got about 250,000 downloads or 250,000 views. We've got about 6,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, so thanks everyone who's over there and enjoying the content. As always, if you guys have suggestions too, I should add, I'm always all ears, all smiles and all ears, ready to hear your suggestions if you have ways that you would like me to improve the podcast or the YouTube channel, which gets me on to the next one. I want to ask you guys a few questions before we get started and I start answering questions. Firstly, what do you guys want out of Aussie English? What can I do to help you guys learn even more and even more quickly, even faster? What would you like on the YouTube channel? What kind of videos? How long? Would you like them longer, shorter, more in-depth regarding vocab, grammar, Australia? Tell me about what kind of content you want in the comments during this whole session. If you come up with ideas about how I can improve Aussie English, I really, really want to hear what you guys think, because obviously I make this for you and I want to make this the best resource possible. I have some giveaways today as well. I have 5 of these books to give away to you guys, and I'm going to give one of them away to the person who comes up with the best suggestion for how to improve Aussie English. And the other four books, I will give away to questions and their responses. The first person to answer some of these questions will get one of these books. It's one of these books. So, all right, sweet. The first question is going to be, what's the name of Australia's smallest state? What's the name of Australia's smallest state to win one of these? That's the first question, guys. And so with that, while you guys think about that, I'm going to start answering some of these questions. All right. The first question that I got for today was from Abu, and Abu said, "How are you?" I'm good, Abu. Thanks for asking. There you go. Saeed, here's the next one. It's question number 2. Would you please explain the difference between pants, trousers, dacks, undies, and jocks? Which one is used for men and women in Australia? So pants and trousers are pretty much the same thing. You know, I'm wearing pants at the moment on my legs. They're the long pants. Trousers is a synonym for pants. You could use either, but my grandparents would probably refer to pants as trousers. I think it's an older form of that word from England. I think the British might use that more. We would just say pants. I would say pants. Men and women would both say pants. Dacks, undies, and jocks are 3 slang terms. Underwear is the long one, and undies is the short slang term for underwear. And this is what you wear under your pants. You're wearing them under your pants. You're wearing your underwear. So they're undies. Jocks and dacks are the same thing. Effectively, they can be your undies. Although I think dacks is actually interesting because it's a slang term for pants, and it's a brand of trousers from Britain. But we also use it as a verb to dack someone. And if you dack someone, you pull their pants down, usually in a public place. So this is the kind of thing that we would always be laughing about when I was in primary school. People would say, you know, "Oh, we should go and dack that kid, you know, that nerdy kid over there, let's dack him." You know, you'd hear it, you'd see it. That was what dacks were. To dack someone was to pull their pants down and sort of, you know, show their bum and make fun of them. So there you go, mate. Pants, trousers, dacks, undies, jocks. I would say that everyone would use these. They're not really split by gender. Women would probably use them just as much as men. You'd use pants and trousers more formally, and then dacks, undies, and jocks informally. All right, question 3. Ruchi says, "Hey Pete, which country did your ancestors come from? How many generations have you guys lived in Australia? And what was the reason for leaving Europe?" That's a tough one. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to ask my dad this one, because he's actually a historian and has done all the family history. So I think at least I can answer a few of these. Ancestor-wise, I am British Scottish, and I think a little bit of West European. So maybe German in there as well, a tiny, tiny amount. But I think the majority of my ancestry is English, and I have a little bit of Scottish. The most recent ancestor to have moved over here was my father's father, who was Scottish, and he moved over here. And I think the rest, my grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mother, she would be, I think, at least 2nd or 3rd generation Australian. And then on my mother's side, again, they would also, my great-grandparents would have been Australian. Their parents were probably from England. So I think I've been in Australia, my family rather, has been in Australia for probably 4 generations, maybe 5. But unlike a lot of other Australians who have older ancestry, I didn't come with the first colonists. My family, rather, didn't come with the first colonists. So I have no convict blood in me, unfortunately. So they're the first 2. What was the reason for leaving Europe? I think that my family would have moved out here for economic reasons. There would have been obviously fewer jobs in England at the time, fewer jobs in Europe, and this would have been in the mid to potentially the late 1800s, and so they probably saw Australia, like people saw America, being the land of opportunity, you know, lots of jobs, lots of growth, lots of opportunity, so they probably came out here on ships, looking for just a better life, less competition, you know, so, and they've come from everywhere in Australia. I have ancestry from Brisbane and Adelaide, and then I think mainly Melbourne, mainly those 3 places, but all over the shop. Okay, question 4. Afsana says, what's the difference between continuous and continual? Continuous and continual. These are actually synonyms. I would imagine you can use these interchangeably. At least I would use both of these interchangeably. So continual, at least based on the definitions that I could find, continual means repeated but with breaks in between, so that it happens all the time but with breaks, so it's chronic. You might say that the rain was continual today, so there was no breaks. Continuous apparently means without interruption, so in an unbroken stream of time or in space. So a continuous rain would be, it's pretty much the same thing. Same thing, continuous, continual. You can have continuous rain all day, you could have continual rain all day. It's all the same. So I would use them interchangeably. All right, question number 5, I think this is. Tran asks, do you watch the movie or the TV show Home and Away? Do you watch it, and is it popular in Australia? I am somewhat ashamed to admit that I used to watch this. I haven't recently, but when I was a kid, we used to watch this, and we have 2 TV shows that are, I guess, not sitcoms, but they're on every day of the week, and they're kind of, I guess they're dramas, you know, they're melodramas. They're constantly on every single day, pretty much all year round, and it's just constant drama, drama, drama. Home and Away is one, and this one is filmed in Sydney. I think it's Palm Beach or Summers Bay in the TV show itself, and this is on, stretching my memory, I think this is on Channel 7. Channel 7 at like 7 o'clock. Then we have Neighbours, which was the Melbourne equivalent. So this is probably where they've created, you know, they probably had Neighbours first, and then Sydney said, oh, we want a TV show as well. And then so they've come up with Home and Away. So Neighbours is the Melbourne one, and this is filmed, I think, in the CBD here, or at least near the CBD. And this one's on Channel 10, I believe, at like 6:30. So you can watch one after the other. It is popular here. I don't watch it much anymore because I don't have TV that's connected to the standard channels. I just use the internet. But if you're looking for TV shows that are on all the time, easy to watch, probably pretty easy English to understand, and just conversational, Home and Away and Neighbours are definitely really good, and you can watch them every night. So I really would recommend those if you guys want to practice your English with TV. You might be able to find them online as well, so give that a look. Tran also asks, are you from Darwin? I saw your address, as in my email address, and are there any different, is there a difference between Darwin and the other cities in Australia? I'm not from Darwin. I've never actually been to Darwin. The reason I have that in my email address is because I'm a fan of Charles Darwin, the father of the theory of evolution. Because I study evolution, I've just submitted my PhD in evolution. Darwin, I'm a big fan of what he did and his book on the origin of species, and so that's why it's in my email address. And I think too that's why Darwin, the city, is named Darwin. It's named after Charles Darwin. The differences between those, Darwin is in the monsoon tropics, so this is in the Northern Territory, right? Sort of if you had Australia like this, you went to the centre and then right to the top, Darwin's up here. The main difference, I would imagine, apart from the weather, so you would have in the monsoon tropics, which is the top of Australia there, you get seasonal rain and then seasonal dry periods. So I think during summer you'll get a load of rain, and then during winter you'll get no rain. I think that's the way around it is. So there's sort of 6 months of rain and then 6 months of just dry weather. So it's the dry season and the wet season. That's pretty unique to Darwin in that part of Australia. Melbourne, Sydney, and even Brisbane wouldn't really have that kind of seasonality. You'd have, you know, summer, autumn, winter and spring, etc. So there's climatic differences. Darwin's somewhat of a dangerous city in that it's in the monsoon tropics, and so there are crocodiles. You'll have them all over the place there, in the ocean, in the rivers, in the estuaries. You have to be really careful where you go swimming. In the ocean as well, you'll have things like sea snakes, you'll have irukandji and the box jellyfish, and those things are 2 different kinds of jellyfish which are deadly. The box jellyfish is really big and has what's called a bell, the top of the jellyfish that's shaped like a box. It's really deadly and has killed people in the past. And also a more recently discovered jellyfish called irukandji. I think it's a Japanese name. And irukandji is tiny. It's very, very small, but it's deadly. And so there's some other differences. I think Darwin too is a lot smaller than the other cities in Australia. So Darwin, from my memory, has a population well below 1 million people. I think it's only a few 100,000. So that is about the same size as the city I grew up in called Geelong, down the coast, away from Melbourne. Whereas cities like Melbourne and Sydney have about 4 million, maybe 5 million people now. And then Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, I think are all larger as well. So Darwin's actually quite small and it's quite isolated. So that's about everything I can tell you off the top of my head with Darwin. All right, so we did the first question for this book, guys, and the answer was Tasmania. Tasmania is the smallest Australian state. That was a bit of a trick question because there are smaller territories in Australia, and they're different things. We've got a territory and then we've got states. But the smaller territory, which is much, much smaller than Tasmania, is the ACT, or Australian Capital Territory. Question number 2 for the next book. Question number 2 is, can you guys name the 2 animals on the coat of arms of Australia? Can you name the 2 different animals on the coat of arms of Australia? So on the Australian emblem. And for bonus points, can you tell me whether or not we eat those animals? That's question number 2. All right, I'm going to put that one aside and I'm going to get through some more of these. So Jose Luis asks, do you mix slang? Can you say things like G'davo, good brekkie, or something like that? Jose, off the top of my head, no. I don't think you would ever be able to do that. It's, you would say good afternoon or good morning. You'd never say good brekkie. Brekkie is the slang term for breakfast. You might ask someone, how's your breakfast going, if you want to say that. But yeah, you would say good morning. You'd say good afternoon. So it almost is a good afternoon and a good morning, but we don't really mix slangs too much. You might use multiple slang words in the same sentence, but you wouldn't combine them, at least not that I can think of on the top of my head. You might meet people every now and then who decide for whatever reason that they start using a mix of 2 words, or they abbreviate some words like, I don't know, there could be a location name. Geelong, for instance. Geelong, we used to call G-Town, as in G, the first letter in the word Geelong, and then town, as in a town, a small town, G-Town. So you might have those kinds of things happening where people have taken multiple words or changed a meaning, abbreviated it. But yeah, overall, we don't really mix slangs. Thanks for the question though, mate. Maybe I'll just answer this next one. So the answer to the second question, guys, was the red kangaroo and the emu, and we eat both of them. So well done. I saw that got answered, and I'll go through afterwards and sift through and see who got it first and make sure that I message you and get your address so I can send this to you. Question 3 is, which British captain discovered Australia? Which British captain? So I know that there is controversy over who really discovered Australia. We know that the Aborigines got to Australia long before any Europeans, but which British sailor? He was a captain. What was his name? Who was he who discovered Australia and claimed Australia in the name of Britain or the United Kingdom? What was his name? Yeah, and I think someone just nailed it. Someone just nailed it. And for bonus points, what year did he find Australia? What year did he find Australia? All right, that was question 3. I'll start answering some more of these. Hani Fahid writes, how do you write thank you in Australian chat? I mean, like tar. I would probably say tar. You can do that. It's pretty casual. It's pretty slangy. Might also say thanks or cheers. Tar, thanks, or cheers. I would definitely say those three if I was wanting to say thank you. I might even say them in person, to be honest. I would use them interchangeably. But ta, T-A, is a very Australian way of saying thanks. You can do that in chat, you can do it in person. Some other ones for you guys with regards to chatting. So if you've got your phone, or I'm using my phone, but if you're texting, you can say, hey, sup, g'day, as in hello. If you're texting someone, you might say things like LOL, as in lol, as in laughing out loud. You might say LMAO, which is laughing my ass off. I use both of those. You might say OMG, you might type this, which is oh my god, OMG. And also ha or he, as in you're laughing. Aside from that, some other interesting stuff that you might notice from time to time when texting or emailing or chatting to someone online, especially if they're, Australians, is they shorten sentences, especially questions. So for instance, if I was going to say, are you at work? I could change this. I could shorten it down to you at work. So I've taken R off. Are you at work? You at work. And then I could even reduce it even further and just write at work, ? At work. So the reason that you can do that is because we know that the conversation is between us two. Obviously, if you were doing this in person or texting with a few people, you can't do that because you wouldn't know who you were talking to. But when it's one-on-one, and I'm sure you guys do this in your languages, you can definitely reduce sentences down like that to the bare bones, to the very bare minimum of information that's required. Another example could be you could ask, did you go to the movies last night? You might reduce this down to, you go to the movies last night? So you've taken did off. Did you go to the movies? You go to the movies? You go to the movies last night? You might even reduce this down to go to the movies last night. So all the way down to just the verb and then the other piece of information, to the movies last night. Did you go to the movies last night? You go to the movies last night? Go to the movies last night? So they're the kinds of things you might see from time to time if you're texting friends in Australia. Okay, I got this from a few people, this question that's coming up. What does down under mean? And why do people refer to Australia as down under? Down under. The term down under is a slang term or a colloquialism, which is, it's variously construed to refer to Australia. So usually this refers to Australia, but it can refer to a few other places as well. But it typically refers to Australia because it's below, it's under the tropical, the equator. So we're in the southern hemisphere, whereas all the other Western countries like Britain and the US are up in the northern hemisphere. So they used to refer to us as down under the equator. So we're under the tropics, we're at the bottom of the earth, we're down under. But I have heard people refer to New Zealand as down under as well, because it's down under. Down under. All right, Tabo and Melanie both asked, can you pronounce beer, bear, beard, and bird? Okay, so if I had a beer, the drink, that's beer, and it sounds like ear, beer. Bear is the animal with claws, a bear, and that sounds like air, as in what I'm breathing at the moment, air. So beer, what you drink, and ear. Air sounds like bear, the animal, bear. Beard, my beard here, that sounds like the drink, beer. My beard. So it sounds like ear, beard. And then bird, bird like the animal, bird, sounds like the word, the past tense of to hear, heard, or her, or stir. That sound. So there's 3 different vowel sounds in there. Ear, air, So I hope that helps, mate. Beer, bear, beard, and bird. All right, we'll do another question. So we've done, what have we done? We've done what was the smallest state in Australia? What were the 2 animals? Who discovered Australia? So we've done 3. What's the capital of Australia, guys? Which city is the capital city of Australia? For the 4th question and the 4th book giveaway, which is the capital city of Australia? The first person to put this in the comments, I'll send you a message when you get it right, and I'll send you this in the mail. And I've got these little books about Australian culture, Australian slang, and all sorts of other goodies, history and everything in there. So the first person to do that, under the assumption that you haven't already answered a question correctly, I'll send this to you guys. All right, so while I do that, that's the 4th one. There's one more giveaway after this, guys. One more question after this. So I'll answer a few more before I give you that one. Janaea asks, in Brazil we eat rice and beans every day, at least most people. What's the typical dish in Australia? And what is the most tasty dish in your opinion? This is a really tough one. Australia's kind of characterized by the fact that we have so many different cultures, so many different dishes. I mean, if you want to talk about British influenced food, then probably a roast is incredibly popular. So this is where you would typically get a chicken or the lamb, a leg of lamb, maybe some beef, and put it in a tray and then into the oven, and you would put in a heap of veggies. You might have things like broccoli, pumpkin, potato. You definitely have potato. You might have potato mash, where the potatoes have been crushed up or smashed up, smooshed up, ground up. They've been turned into kind of like a paste. You add a bit of salt and milk. So that's the kind of thing that would be British influenced. But I mean, to be honest, my parents are Caucasian Australians with British, Scottish ancestry. But I grew up eating a lot of curries. So we have loads and loads of curries from India, from Thailand, from different parts of Asia that you will find really accessible in supermarkets like Woolies and Coles. So Woolworths and Coles are 2 of the biggest chains of supermarkets in Australia, and these will have loads of those kinds of things. So we used to have chicken curries all the time. It would be Indian influenced. It could also be Vietnamese or Thai influenced. You can just buy these off the shelf. We'd also have things like Mexican. So we'd have tacos. We'd have barbies. So we'd have a barbecue every now and then, where again we would get sausages, lamb cutlets, chicken, put them on the barbie. We might put veggies in there or make some salads, cook some roast veggies up. My mum would also do things like coleslaw. So how do I define coleslaw? That's like a little bit of ham, some potato, usually mayonnaise in there as well. So I guess it's difficult. In Australia, we have a wide range of culinary foods, whatever you want to call it. There's heaps and heaps of different kinds of dishes that you'll get here. And the standard is there's no standard. Some typical ones that you'll see if you go out to restaurants, at least, Aussie restaurants, you'll definitely get parmas everywhere. So parmigianas, you'll get everywhere. You'll probably get food a lot of the time like fish and chips. So you can go to fish and chip shops and you'll get fish and chips, which is sort of fried potato and fried meat that you'll get, deep fried. That's really good. That's pretty much everywhere in Australia. Really easy takeaway food. And you'll also get, obviously, parmigianas. You get fish and chips in restaurants as well, where you'll have all kinds of different meats that you can buy. And then you'll get veggies, chips, and different sauces on the side. So that's typically what you'll find in a lot of different places in Australia. But then also you'll see takeaway shops that are Vietnamese, that are Thai, Malaysian, Indonesian, Indian. They're from everywhere. And that's the amazing thing. I love that part about Melbourne, the fact that you can go out and there's Korean, Japanese, Chinese. You just take your pick, and to get through all the different cultures kind of food would probably take you months, literally months. You could go to a different country's restaurant every single night. Jaina also asks, if possible, can you talk about Australian animals, like endemic, exotic and dangerous ones? Well, we talked about dangerous ones at the start. Dangerous animals in Australia, I guess if we cover that, This is an interesting topic because I think if you asked people, and I'll put it up here, I'll find it, what animals kill the most Australians. I'll do a search for you guys because I know that it's not going to be what you think. So often people think spiders, snakes, crocodiles, what else? Jellyfish, sharks are the dangerous animals in Australia. All of those things, maybe snakes as well if I didn't say snakes. But in Australia, I think the animal that's most likely to kill you, where have we got here? Here we go. Sharks and snakes kill barely anyone. I think in the last 20 years, you've probably had under 50 people killed by both of those things. The same with crocodiles. You might get 1 or 2 people that get killed by a crocodile every year, but that's probably fewer than would be killed by a cow, to put that into perspective. So what have we got here? I'm going to look this up because I want to give you guys some interesting facts. So, okay, horses, cows, and dogs are apparently incredibly bad. Of the 254 confirmed and reported animal-related deaths in the last 10 years, horses, cows, and dogs were the most frequent culprits, and combined they took up 137 of those deaths. Horses were the most deadly. There you go. The most deadly animal in Australia are horses and horse riding. 77 deaths occurred in the last 10 years from horses, mostly related to falling off horses. Cows, here you go, cows and bulls, cattle, accounted for 33 deaths. So 33 people died from cows. 16 by motor vehicle accidents with cows, so running into cows. I know, crazy stuff. And then the third biggest was dogs. 27 deaths in Australia were caused by dogs in the last 10 years. And these were typically with children or elderly people. So there you go, guys. If you come to Australia, the most deadly animals are horses, cows, and then dogs. So be careful of them before you worry about things like jellyfish, snakes, and crocs. What else have we got here? Other deadly animals included fish, sheep, goats, camels, cats, jellyfish, and combined they killed 40 people. So there you go. There's a little bit about deadly Australian animals, but it wouldn't have been what you thought, huh? All right, I'll give you one more of these and then we'll do the last book giveaway for you guys. So Pete, this one comes from Mateos. Pete, can you please talk about some accents? Which are the ones that are the hardest to understand? Chinese people, Indian people, when they speak English, is that more hard than with Brazilians? Also, can you talk a bit about the Brazilian accent? So, all right, this is a tricky one. I think it's not so much where the person comes from that matters, it's the strength of their accent. And so it's not so much that it's hard to understand Chinese people, but it's easy to understand people from France, or that it's hard to understand Indian people and it's easy to understand people from Indonesia. Everyone can be easy to understand and everyone can be incredibly hard to understand. It's just how close they get to their pronunciation, how much they've practiced their pronunciation. So there's not necessarily it's a really hard question to kind of answer, which is the most difficult to understand accent. I would say for me, the most difficult to understand accent is one where they haven't nailed the vowels in English. If you're having trouble with vowels in English, there's 20 different vowels in English. If you're having trouble hitting these correctly, saying these correctly when you speak, that makes listening and understanding what you're trying to say very, very difficult. It's not something that's hard to overcome. You can definitely improve. You can overcome this really easily, but it takes practice. You've got to listen, repeat, constantly. I think the main reason for this, the main reason that changing vowel sounds or using the wrong ones in the wrong place makes it hard to understand is because, like we just went over before, where I went over beer, bear, bird, and beard, if you switch those vowels and say the same thing, the same consonants around those vowels, the words completely change. And so if you say the wrong vowel and therefore accidentally say the wrong word, I, as a native speaker, am hearing that word perfectly, that you've said perfectly, but used incorrectly. And so that's why I'm thinking, I'm constantly going over what's he talking about if he's saying that my bird is really itchy instead of my beard is really itchy. Stuff like that. So that's the reason accents can be hard to understand. Most of the time, it's the vowels. Consonants as well can be difficult. Consonants, so things like t, d, g, sh, all those sorts of sounds, the non-vowels in English as well, you need to nail those, but more importantly are the vowels. So there's a website that I'll try and remember to link you guys where they go through all the different Australian vowels and consonants. I'll link that to you guys below. In fact, I'll write a note now, website. It's really good because it's got the audio there for you, so you can listen and repeat, listen, repeat. And you can also try and find out which weak spots you have and then practice those. All right, so the last question, let's go over this. I'll give you guys this one. What is it here? What have we got? Name the two animals. Name the British. Yep. I think that might be it actually, guys. Smallest one. So we've got, how can I improve Aussie English? Yeah, in fact, I think that was it. So again, how can I improve Aussie English? That's the last one. Give me the best answer and I'll send this to you guys. So give me some suggestions. What would you like? Would you like me to do more videos? What kind of content would you like? And the best, most useful, most helpful answer will get that book. So that's the Australian Language and Culture book. I've got a whole bunch of them here, guys. I haven't seen who's answered all these questions correctly, but I will go through later and find out who was the first person to answer each of those 4 questions. And if you answered 2 of them and did it first, you'll only get 1 book. I'm not going to send you 2. Sorry, guys. All right, we're getting close. Jose Sita asks, can you give us a tip or an explanation about how we use at, in, or on? Also, the hint to say properly, shit and sheet. It's horrible for Spanish speakers. Probably I'm always saying shit when I really want to say bed sheets or timesheet. This is one that a lot of people screw up, Jose Sita. I think I've tried to explain this to a few Spanish friends. Estefania down here, who I've seen commenting, has experienced my explanation. I'll see if I can show you my mouth when I say the two. So I'm going to say shit first, which is the really rude word for poo. Shit. So my mouth comes in, shit. And if I say sheet, it comes out. Sheet, shit. Sheet, shit. It's very, very subtle, but it makes a big difference. It's the same vowel sound for bitch, which is a female dog and also a bad word for a person, usually a woman. Don't use that on a woman. You can use it for a female dog though. A bitch and beach. So it's that same thing. Beach comes out wider and then goes in, and bitch stays smaller. I, e, I, e. So they're those vowel sounds. At, in, and on, that's difficult to kind of explain just in one go. These really depend on the context that they're being used in. So for instance, if I'm going to a place and I want to say that I want to meet that person in the place, on the place, or at the place, those 3 different prepositions change where I would meet that person. If I was to say, okay, all right, so imagine that I'm meeting a friend at a museum and I said to him, I'm going to meet you at the museum. When I use at, it just means the location. At the museum. So it could be in the museum, it could be on the museum, it could be in front of the museum, behind the museum, inside the museum, outside the museum. It's at the museum. It's that general location. So if I meet you at the beach, it's anywhere at the beach. It's that location. If I was to say I'll meet you in the museum though, that has to be inside. You can't be outside of the museum and say to someone, I'll meet you inside or in the museum. If you say, I'll meet you in the museum, in my mind, you're going to be inside of it somewhere. I'll meet you in the museum. I'll meet you at the museum. Could be inside, outside, on top of, underneath, general location. If you said, I'll meet you on the museum, this would be on top of the museum though. So on, above. So for some reason you can get on top of the museum, then you could say, I'll meet you on the museum. I'll meet you on top of the museum. So they're the main different ways that you can use them with regards to location. You can use some of these like with public transport. So for instance, you get in a car, you get into a car. Imagine the car being something like what have we got here? A car is kind of the shape of a box, right? And you put something in a box, you take something out of a box. So you get into a car, you get out of a car. Public transport, though, is different. With public transport, you've got to imagine that public transport is like a platform. You can't get into a platform being something flat that you stand on. You get on the platform. You go on the platform. You come on the platform. So when we're talking about using public transport, we usually use on. So you get on a train, you get on a plane, you get on a bike, you get on what else we got? A bus, you get on a plane, on. So the idea is that you're on, say, a platform, which is the public transport, whether it's a plane, bus, whatever. If it's a car, you have to say in. So you get in a car, you get in a taxi, you get in an Uber, and you get out as a result. Whereas if you get into a plane and then you leave the plane, you get off the plane. So those are those opposites. In and out, on and off. So I hope that helps. Ryan Tiana asks, amber fluid is beer? Isn't Australian English extremely lazy? English, usually they abbreviate everything. Why is amber fluid longer? I think we like to, every now and then, sort of use, I guess, funny explanations for things. So, for instance, and this is something that you guys might laugh at, toilet paper, sometimes we'll call it shit tickets. I've heard people use that, or the dunny roll. So you don't always shorten things. Sometimes you'll use casual language to give something a different meaning, a different name. And it's usually just to be funny or to be just casual, add a bit of humor in there. So you can do that as well. You can make it up. You can try it. I remember when someone said to me once, you've run out of shit tickets, meaning that we had no toilet paper in the house. And initially I thought, What are shit tickets? And then they explained to me, they said they're toilets, they're tickets, like a ticket, a piece of paper, and for shit, for using in the toilet, shit tickets. So Australians love to do that. We love to make a lot of jokes. He also asks, what kinds of beer are common in Melbourne and common in Australia that I should try? The common ones, Ryan, unfortunately, don't always tend to be the best ones. So to talk to you guys a little bit about beer and the beer that I would drink here in Melbourne, Melbourne is really good because we're so multicultural. You'll go anywhere here and you'll find beer from everywhere. So we have Japanese beer like Asahi. We'll have stuff from, I think, Holland, like Hoegaarden. We'll have German beers. We'll have stuff from Britain. You get it from everywhere. Those beers tend to be the good ones. The common Australian beers, at least that are found at pubs and on tap, you're going to find things in Victoria like VB, which is Victorian Bitters. That's your bog standard, boring Australian beer, VB. And the equivalent for places like Queensland is 4X, so it's 4 of these, XXXX, and it's yellow. Those are really, really light, easy to drink, boring beers. You'll also find things like Carlton Draft. Carlton Draft is another one to ask for around Melbourne. So that's another good one. But yeah, there are heaps of things. Another one is Bogues. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Foster's is around the place, but not really. It's one of those things. You'll see when you come here that a lot of the time what's on tap, you'll have those Carlton Draft, VB, and then you'll have things like Guinness, Asahi, stuff from Europe, stuff from all over the place. So it's pretty good in Melbourne. All right, the last question. The last question comes from Evil Monkey. So this one came from YouTube. Evil Monkey asks, thank you so much for your amazing content. I would like to know if Australians have unique pet names for their significant others, like boyfriends and girlfriends, other than the usual ones like honey and sweetheart. Thanks again. I think the most common pet names that you'll hear would be things like babe. You'd probably hear babe or sweetie, maybe. I mean, I feel a bit weird. I usually just call them by their name, if I've got a girlfriend, but that's just me. But you might hear people say things like love, dal, as in darling. You might hear people say dal, that's like D-A-R-L, dal. You might hear love and dal used as well by women in places like shops that are serving you, especially when you go out into the country. If you go out into the country, you're going to hear women, not men, unless they're men, maybe if they're referring to girls, if they're talking to girls, they won't say it to other men, but you will hear women say to both men and females, women, dal and love or honey. Those kinds of really casual, nice ways of referring to people. And it's just a friendly thing. You'll hear that from them all the time. They'll be like, hey, dal, how can I help you? Hey, love, how can I help you? What can I do for you, love? Are you all right, love? Are you all right, honey? Honey might be a bit more for people in a couple, but yeah, darling, honey, sweetheart, babe, sweetie, honey. Those are the kinds of things I would use. But then you probably also come up with just standard nicknames for one another. So, for instance, Emily might become Em. Peter would become Pete. Stephanie would become Steph. Those kinds of things. So those are all the questions, guys. Those are all the questions from the ones that I collected this week. If you guys have other questions, I'm going to hang around for another 15 or so minutes, assuming that I can find some questions to answer. So make sure you put them in the comment section below. I'll also try and sift through and find some, because I saw some of you ask questions during, but I can only see like 2 comments at a time. It's kind of annoying. So we'll see how I go. I also wanted to tell you, and I forgot earlier, I wanted to give you a list to say all of these different countries that the most listeners were in that listen to the podcast, because I can see this when I get on SoundCloud, the website that I use when I upload the podcast. So obviously Australia's number 1, because you guys, for the most part, live in Australia when you start listening to this podcast. So we'll just ignore Australia. Country number 1 on the list of listeners is Vietnam. Country number 2 is Japan. Country number 3 is Brazil. Country number 4 is Korea. Country number 5 is the USA. I doubt that's any Americans. That must be people in the USA. Country number 6 is Colombia. Country number 7 is Indonesia. Country number 8 is Spain. Country number 9 is France. And country number 10 is Malaysia. So g'day to all of you guys from those 10 countries. Vietnam, Japan, Brazil, Korea, USA, Colombia, Indonesia, Spain, France, and Malaysia. Thanks so much for listening, guys. So yeah, remember that I've asked you guys how I can improve Aussie English. Give me some advice, give me some tips. If you guys have specific things you'd like me to do episodes on, I would love to know, so make sure you put them in the comments. I would really, really like to do more in the future now that I finally finished the PhD and I have a bit more time on my hands. Time on my hands meaning I have more free time, more spare time, more spare time to do this kind of stuff. I would love to be able to dive in more deeply, but I also need some more ideas, I guess, too, on how to better serve you with regards to products or with regards to things that I can sell to support myself. So obviously I have the Aussie English Supporter Pack, which you guys can sign up for, and it's $20 a month. You can use this in order to get bonus exercises for the expression episodes on the podcast. And this is getting to the point now where it's about enough to pay for my rent, which is really, really good. It's a really good sign, but I probably need about 2 or 3 times that to be able to completely do this full time. So we're getting there though. That's really encouraging, and a massive thank you to everyone who's signed up and is currently enjoying the Aussie English Supporter Pack. If you guys want to check it out, go to the website, click Learn English Faster. I'll put a link below and you guys can sign up. And I have changed that recently back to a month for the trial. I had a few people ask me saying a week was too short. We want to trial the Aussie English Supporter Pack, but we'd like a month. I had reduced it to a week, but I've put it back to a month. So if you guys sign up now, you will get a month for $1. You'll get to try the Aussie English Supporter Pack. You'll also get access to the Aussie English virtual classroom where you guys get daily exercises to work on things like those prepositions. So these are things that I've worked on. On top of that, at the moment, I'll give you a little behind the scenes. I'm working on phrasal verbs. So I'm trying to write a course for you guys going through phrasal verbs, because I know that you guys have a lot of difficulty with phrasal verbs in English. I'll pick this up and I'll give you a little squiz, a little look at the slideshow that I have created. So I'm going to go through different phrasal verbs with over, with figures on the side here showing you how to think about it, and all these different verbs that take over after it as phrasal verbs. So I'm working on that, and I'm thinking that I'll try and put together one for all the different kinds of phrasal verbs using up, down, in, out, of, all those kinds of words, package it together, and then sell that, hopefully for an affordable price, obviously, but I just, let me know what you guys think. Is this the kind of thing that's really going to help you with your English? And yeah, I'm probably going to try and put subtitles on so that you guys can read everything that I'm saying at the same time. Sadar here wants more spoken contraction podcast episodes. Thank you for letting me know about that, mate. I'll try and do more of those. I'm also thinking about packaging all of the podcast MP3s into one downloadable file that I could sell as well for you guys. So if you wanted to be able to download every single episode that I've created in the past, I had a few people online asking me how to do that, and it seems like it's really annoying to try and sift through and find them. So I thought, as another way of supporting the podcast, that I could put them all in one place and sell those as well. So those are the main ideas, guys. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions for how I can better serve you and create products that will help you learn Australian English, I've got plenty of ideas. It's just a matter of working out what you guys want, what you guys respond to, and what's really going to help you guys the most. So please give me as many suggestions as possible. I'm always open to new ideas, and now that I have more time on my hands, I'm hopefully going to be able to dive in and do a lot more of these kinds of things. So I know that I've got a few questions in here. So could you repeat the name of the book? I'll hold it up for you guys, although it's probably backwards. The name of the book is Australian Language and Culture, and it's by Lonely Planet. So it looks like this. You can get it online. I think it's about $10. $10, $10. So give that a go. I'm going to see if I can find some more questions. Most important ways to understand. There's a lot of statements here. You guys are doing well, helping each other with your English. What else have we got here? Can you make a course for the vowels? Can we practice those? So there's actually a course that I've got for these online already in the Aussie English Supporter Pack. So I'll link that to you. Obviously it's not too easy to find, but I've actually, and in fact I'll show you guys what I've done for all the Australian vowels. I've created MP3s for all of them, and I say about 10 to 20 words for all the different kinds of vowels in Australian English. And I need to get around to doing one for the consonants so that you guys can literally sit down and just smash out the difficult vowel sounds that you guys find really annoying and want to improve upon. So let me load this website up and I'll show you how that's set up on here. And for all the people in the Aussie English Supporter Pack who've got access to it, I'll link this to you guys as well. So you get this when you sign up for the Aussie English Supporter Pack, guys. Let me just load it up. Let's see. I'll hold this in a bit closer so you can see. So, basic premise here is that you get an MP3 on the side here, and then you get all these different words. So BC, bleak, meek, steep, all these different words with the same vowel sound. And so it's still loading up. So, but you'll see that I've gone through and done all the different vowels in Australian English. So there's diphthongs, there's the standard vowels as well, but here we go. It's just loaded up. All right. So this is the web page, Australian pronunciation, and then you can see E as in B, I as in me, how do we say that? Head, E as in head. So I have them all listed there for you guys to try and make it really simple to navigate. And I'll try and do the same for consonants. I was also thinking about doing an audio dictionary for Australian slang. That's the simplest way that I can think of explaining this. And you guys have to let me know what you think of that idea. It would be like having really short 1 to 2 minute episodes where I define and then use a lot of Australian slang, all the stuff that I would use, and create like an audio dictionary that's also transcribed so that you can read exactly what I'm saying. So you can learn Australian slang whilst also listening to me and reading what I say to reinforce and practice your English. But let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea, if that's something that you would pay for and use. Ultimately, I want to make stuff that's going to help you guys as much as possible. So Estefania asks here, is there a small octopus that's deadly in Australia that is blue? There is. This is called the blue ring octopus. It's very small. It could fit in my hand, but it is, I believe it's the only known venomous octopus in the world. So we have, I think there's a venomous octopus, a venomous squid, and a venomous cuttlefish. And those are the 3 different kinds of cephalopods that are out in the world. Cuttlefish, which are sort of found low, close to the ground in the water and swim around. You have squid that are found out in the open ocean. And then you have things like octopus, which are found around rocks and have the stereotypical 8 legs. So the blue ring octopus is the venomous one in Australia, and it has a venomous bite. And I actually have a family friend who's been bitten by one, but didn't die. I think the last person to die from a blue ring octopus was someone trying to take a photo with it on their shoulder, so doing something stupid, and it bit them. They didn't realize, and they, just went about their day and died from the venom from that thing. Question. How long did the movie go, or how long did the movie last? Second sentence I've seen as an example in some dictionary. I think you could say both, but I would say go for. So if you're talking about the length of time that something goes for, you would say, how long does it go for? How long did it go for? How long will it go for? And that's the same as how long did it last? How long did it last? So I'd use both of those, but just make sure you say go for. Did it go for long? How long did it go for? I hope that helps, Irek. What other questions? Fish and chips. Yep. Burgers and chips. Yep. There's some good Australian meals. What else? A lot of you guys got a lot of these questions right, which is a good thing to see. What's the difference between while and whilst? Says Dewey. And I hope I'm saying that correct, Dewey. While and whilst. I would use these interchangeably. They're exactly the same thing. Whilst is probably rarer, slightly less common, although I would use that. So that might be a little elevated with regards to your English. If you use that, you're going to sound a little bit more intelligent. It's one of those things where you can use them both. They're just used at different frequencies. more educated people overall, I don't know, it's a bit pretentious, but I think I would hear like academics using whilst all the time, whereas while would be used by everyone. So it's up to you. I think personally I would use them both. It would just depend on whatever it is in my head that decides which one I want to use it at any time. Why do people eat kangaroos? I think they are too cute to be eaten. I want to know how they taste. Andrea. People eat kangaroos in Australia because it's better for the environment and because there are a lot of them. There are actually, I think, between 2 and 3 kangaroos for every single person that lives in Australia. The main reason for this is that when we cleared land in Australia, we got rid of all the forests and created grazing land or grazing country for animals like sheep, goats, horses, cows, like cattle, to graze on. So they were grazing on grazing land. We also created grazing land that kangaroos could eat. So they eat the same food. They eat grasses. There's less grass in forests. So when we cleared all those forests and created all this grassland for animals to graze on, the kangaroos exploded in numbers, absolutely exploded. So we have a lot of them. The difference between kangaroos, apart from them obviously being native, is that they have soft feet and they don't destroy the soil. They don't compact the soil and make it hard for things to grow. So they don't destroy the land. So it's actually a lot better for Australians to eat kangaroos that are farmed on land here than it is for us to eat things like sheep and beef, like cattle and pigs and all those sorts of foods. So it's sustainable. It's slowly becoming more and more common. I really like kangaroo because it's very lean. It's only about 2% fat. It's environmentally friendly and it's cheap at the moment. I believe that these animals are all humanely culled. I think they have to be. They're not hunted in the wild. They're actually farmed. I don't think you can eat wild kangaroos. I'm not sure. You might be able to. But yeah, that's the main reason. And you can buy this at Woolworths, at Woolies. You can get this at Coles. Give it a go. It's a little bit more gamey than beef, but I prefer that, to be honest, when I eat it. It takes less time to cook, and you cook it a little rarer than beef, or else it gets tough because it's gamey, but it actually tastes relatively the same as beef, just a little tastier, so there's a little bit more to it. I would definitely recommend giving it a go, see what you think, but if any of you guys want to live on a budget and want to eat red meat, kangaroo is much cheaper than beef, pork, and even chicken. I think you can get probably about half a kilo for $5 or so. So I definitely think go out there and try kangaroo. What else have we got here? I've got a lot of people answering my questions, so good job, guys. I'm looking forward to going through them. Why is awful a bad thing and awesome a good thing? This is from Louis. He's asking, why is awful bad and awesome good? I guess awe is the idea, without looking this up, awe is the idea of sort of impressive, shocking, and that in and of itself is not good and not bad. If you put some on the end of a word though like that, or some, handsome, it's the idea that that thing is improved, is better, I guess. I'd have to look this up. I'm riffing it. I'm making this up on the spot, but I think that's the basic idea. Awesome, handsome. I'm trying to think of some other examples. It's pretty rare, but awesome is good. Whereas if you put full on the end of something, where it's full of something, I guess it's like, I don't know. It's a really difficult one because then we have words like wonderful or, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I don't think there's any real reason, to be honest, Louis. I think it's just that we needed 2 different words to explain these things. Awesome's good and awful is bad. And strangely enough, you can say that something is awfully good. So I think you can just use awful to mean bad, but also to mean really. It's really good. It's awfully good. He's really annoying. He's awfully annoying. So I know that explanation was pretty poor, but I hope it helps, mate. So I'm going to scroll through and see if I can find some more questions. I'm driving and enjoying Aussie English, Ali. I hope you're not watching it whilst you're driving, mate. But thanks for checking in and saying g'day. What else have we got here? Is birth and beard pronounced the same? No, they're not, Diddy. Birth sounds like bird, but it's got a TH instead of a D at the end. Birth and bird. Whereas beard sounds like ear. Beard. Ear, different vowel sounds. How can I practice speaking by myself? Asks Abdul. Abdul, I'd recommend chatting to yourself. So, for instance, if I started learning some vocabulary right now, say I was wanting to learn the pronunciation of beer, bird, and beard, I would start saying them aloud. There's no one here. I would just be like, beer, 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 bird, 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 bird. And then, so you get used to saying it, beer, bird, and switching between them. So you practice the different pronunciations side by side. Beer, bird, bear, beer, bird, bear. Practice that and then use them in sentence. I drink a beer. I see a bird. I have a beard. I want to eat a bird. I like birds. Birds are nice. There's a bird in my beard. You know, you just keep using it, keep practicing. And that applies to anything. If you're learning pronunciation, if you're learning grammar, say you want to learn how to use the word go, and you want to conjugate in the present tense. I go home, you go home, he goes home, she goes home, we go home, they go home, it goes home. I would sit there and be practicing it like that. I might go home later. I might go to the beach. He might go home later. He might go to the beach. So I would play around with it like that, where I try and use it as much as possible. If I've got no one to talk to, your mouth and your brain don't really know, at least with respect to learning and practicing the language, if someone else is there. They don't know. Your mouth doesn't know. So if you're using it on your own, you can practice these things and trick your mouth and part of your brain, at least, into thinking there's someone else there because you're still using the language. So I think that's a way that you guys can really hack language learning. You can do this on your own as much or as little as you like, but you can practice all the things you find difficult that you're not comfortable saying in front of other people. So, for instance, if you're not sure how to use words like awful and awfully, or awful and awesome, look up the definitions, find some example sentences, start saying them aloud to practice your pronunciation. Look up the pronunciation of those words on dictionaries. A lot of dictionaries now have the pronunciation where you can click a button to hear it. Forvo is one, forvo.com. You can search any word and you can find how to pronounce it. Forvo. That's my suggestion. I would also then conjugate through the sentences. So if you have a sentence that's like, I might go to the beach, I might go to the beach, I'd say it well enunciated first. I might go to the beach. So I pronounce all the words well. And then I might say, I might go to the beach. Like I'll link the words. I might go to the beach. I might go to the beach. I might go to the beach. That takes practice, but you'll get the feeling in your mouth of what's easy, how it flows. I do this in Spanish, Portuguese, and French. One thing to mention here is you might get things wrong. You might get habits that aren't perfect, but you're going to be able to speak fluidly and more confidently and say what you're trying to say with people when you go and see them. So it's a long-winded answer, but that's how I would practice speaking on my own and build confidence. It's like doing push-ups to get stronger, right? You know, sometimes I might be a weightlifter. When I compete, that's when it matters. But when I'm not competing, I still need to practice on my own like crazy to build up that muscle memory and the muscle strength. It's the same for your mouth. It's the same for your brain. Do it as much as you can on your own. Practice as much as you can. And then when you do it in person with someone else, it's just going to flow out. And then look for the mistakes. If there are errors, if there are mispronunciation, write them down, go home, repeat. So I hope that helps, mate. I might answer one more question, guys, and then I'll call it quits because I've been here for about an hour. So this is, I think, the longest episode that I have ever done live. What else have we got here? Awesome, thanks. Steph's been doing the pronunciation lessons with me. What has she been doing? Working on connected speech, and she says that it's very useful. That's it. That was me and Steph were working on some of that stuff recently. It's good fun. It's good fun. I found that when pronouncing long A sound, Aussie pronunciation is so different from American English. It is, Karen. So I guess an example of that one that I think you're talking about is like ah in words like car instead of car. Or the equivalent of things like, they would say ass for your bottom. I'm not going to show you it. For your bottom, they would say ass, whereas I would say ass. The best way to think about that A sound is the sound that you would make in your mouth if you just drop your jaw and say a vowel sound. So imagine you're at the dentist and he puts the thing in your mouth and he says, say ah, ah. So that's the sound, ah. And remember, I've got a video online about this. Words that end with E-R, R-E, A-R, O-R, A, U-R-E, O-U-R, all those sorts of things sound the same. They're exactly the same. They sound like ah. So you're going to hear things like Peter instead of Peter, treasure instead of treasure. What's another one? Fiona instead of Fiona. In fact, that doesn't end with an R, sorry. But yeah, they all have the same sounds, that R sound. Peter. So I hope that helps. Anyway, guys, that's been about an hour. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy to do episode 300 live with you guys and answer all of these questions. I will go through now and find out who the winners were for all of these books. I'm going to have to send you guys private messages and find out your addresses and where you would like me to send these books. Remember, guys, I have a Patreon page now that I'll link below. If you want to support Aussie English, you can sign up and donate $1. You can sign up and donate more than that per month. It's totally up to you guys, but that's a way for you to engage and support me if you like what I'm doing. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and get on there. Share as much of the stuff as you can. Keep listening to the podcast. And yeah, give me some ideas. If you guys have any suggestions, put them in a comment below. Send me a message. Say g'day. I'm always there to chat to you when and if I have time. Thanks again, guys. I really, really appreciate it. You're all amazing, and I'll chat to you soon. Peace out, guys. G'day, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Remember, if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so via my Patreon page, which is linked in the description below. If you can't afford to support the channel financially, you can still help by spreading the word and sharing the videos. Thanks so much, guys. Stay awesome. All the best.